right, welcome back to KubeCon 2026. We're in day 3 of KubeCon here in Amsterdam. A little cloudy, a little rainy. Wish we could balance this weather.
So, I felt the need to change hats. I feel like I was a bit too much of an infrastructure cowboy, and I really wanted to fit in with the DevOps hipsters here, so I've got my, push it straight to prod hat, but you gotta wear multiple hats in a data center, and sometimes people ask me to, oh, John, storage this, compute that, and then someone asked me for networking, and I'm like, I'm the world's worst networking engineer. Like, it's just, I feel like there's too many demands.
I mean, I heard the same about you.
It's fair.
And today we're joined by Philippe Klapp from F5, and we're going to talk a little bit about how VKS and VCF, F5, and this community come together. So Philippe, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Just a quick question here. So I've known, F5, I've seen you guys in the data centers for years. Every time I get lost, my North Star of directions, where's the giant big IP appliance with lots of FPGAs, RAR, but for Kubernetes, is that the approach you're taking, or is it something else? Which, within the product set, what are y'all going with?
Yeah, no, you raise a good point, because we are well known for the hardware, the appliances, of course, and the distribution of traffic for apps mainly. And we evolved a little bit with this approach when we saw the evolution of Kubernetes and becoming the real new platform in a way. And having multiple clusters and multiple nodes in a cluster was still an issue in terms of networking, because we need to load balance this. So as a load balancer company, that was, of course, the initial target. But what we see is that those apps have moved into Kubernetes clusters, and those apps require security. And that's the evolution that we made a long time ago, probably more than 15 years ago, with the evolution of the load balancer becoming a web application firewall also. And of course, you talk about FPGAs, the evolution of the network stack is more into encryption today, into SSL, into PQC, where we want to be sure that the encrypted traffic stay encrypted even in a couple of years, when you can read it later on with some tooling potentially. So the solution in terms of hardware is still valid, even when you have clustering like Kubernetes, but the evolution of those apps in the clusters have shown that we need to be part of the cluster at some point. So we moved also into the cluster by acquiring NGINX roughly 7 years ago, and keeping the open source version, of course, and having a commercial offering with NGINX Plus, with the addition of WAF also, where the WAF is able to run inside Kubernetes today with our solution as an ingress, or of course as a resource for applications.
Excellent. So you see a lot of customers asking for how to make the complexity of Kubernetes networking a whole lot less complex. You also have your traditional infrastructure folks who are saying, now I have this new challenge. How do I take what I know of infrastructure load balancing, L4 and L7, into the Kubernetes space? And then of course the traffic that happens within Kubernetes, and then how does it all come together? And from our perspective, we've been spotlighting the vSphere Kubernetes service all week and all year, and for a couple of years now, right? How have you, when you speak to VMware customers, how does this all come together, specifically around our upstream conformant Kubernetes distribution? How do you talk customers off the ledge, right?
Yeah. So you have a huge install base in terms of VMware ecosystem, that's for sure. We had the partnership for ages on many different fronts, in terms of automation, in terms of many different aspects. And what we've seen is that with Kubernetes, everybody was looking into how your solution, meaning the big IP, as you said, can plug into a CNI. And this CNI is, for some customers, being able to access the pods. For others who are, I want you to stay away from there. I want you to just see the NodePorts of my different nodes and apps. And with you, with the Tanzu offering and the evolution of the CNI with Antrea, we have done the development also to be able to plug our solution into this ecosystem with the NodePort local, which is a specific development you have in your CNI, which is making us external, but having the visibility of the pods with this capability, which is really great, because customers they want to load balance their nodes, but what they don't know if inside the node there is a pod listening for this traffic. So it's better to go to the node where the pod is running instead of going to the node and then being tromboned to another pod somewhere else.
Yeah. And this work started with, as you mentioned, when TKGS was the focus, which is now VKS. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Yeah.
But so from a performance basis, we're routing in, and you basically spin up containers within that environment, or you run within VMs. Like, how does that spin up inside the VKS instance?
Yeah. So the only thing that you spin up inside Kubernetes or inside VKS is what we call CIS, which is a component called Container Ingress Services, which was mainly focused on ingress, but we expanded it to transport server, virtual server, which is the ability to manage other protocols than only HTTP, HTTPS. And this component runs inside VKS and is just checking what's going on in terms of Kubernetes events and taking decisions to push in the big IPs that is fronting your Kubernetes clusters on deciding I need to add more pods, I need to remove more pods from my list of distribution.
So it'll auto scale and cover that, and then it's providing service checks, so it can say, figure out, okay, is this actually healthy? Is this responding? Going beyond basic layer 4, just the packet glanced off me. Yeah, sure, maybe. I think a port's open, like go connect to give more intelligence.
Yes, that's exactly the point. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of, I think along those lines a little bit, there's a lot of momentum around Gateway API.
Yes.
For Ingress, and there's the industry and whole is kind of starting to head in that direction. So where do you play? Where does F5 or NGINX play in that?
Yeah. So from CIS standpoint, the big IP integration with Kubernetes ecosystem, we are at the ingress and transport and virtual server level. We have not yet moved into Gateway API yet. It's in the plans. For NGINX, we already have the NGINX, what we call Gateway Fabric, NGF, which is Gateway API ready. And we are also providing some migration tooling to be able to move from an existing ingress, which is archived yesterday, was archived by the community, to the ingress from F5, the NGINX ingress from F5, where we have the open source and of course the commercial offering.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, it's interesting because the archiving of that project has brought, I think, over a third of people were using it, just 6 months ago. So there's a lot of interest in making sure you're able to do that. And I saw a lot of tears being spilt on Reddit, people complaining. It's like, okay, but there are 2 maintainers who were trying to maintain this project, and it was problematic. So this is part of the fun of Kubernetes is there's obviously the CNCF landscape. It's I think I've heard it called a meme where there's like 40,000 sub projects, but this is something that you do have to be ready to find a stable partner to take care of your load balancing needs.
Definitely. Yeah. So we have done this evolution with NGINX, with NGF, and we are adding also the WAF capability on this layer. So we have the WAF option. So more or less customers that want to keep the WAF or web application firewall inside their Kubernetes, being able to scale it, being able to deploy it with their
not having to hairpin the traffic outside, to keep it all within the cluster,
exactly.
high throughput.
That's exactly the point.
Offload.
So, and they can concentrate, let's say, on all the ecosystem inside Kubernetes, and the WAF is part of it.
That's nice. Bring layer 7 inside the cluster. Keep those CPUs busy.
Yes.
So where are you seeing NGINX go with the retirement of a certain widely used open source solution at the end of this month, actually in March? Like, do you see NGINX in the open source community being, a consistent and larger player moving forward, or do you see it as part of like the broader enterprise offering?
Yeah, it's difficult to say because today the community around NGINX is pretty huge. I would say there is a big community on the website of NGINX, because NGINX is well known also for web hosting.
Very fast. I came out of nowhere too. I was like, what is this little project? And past Apache for anybody who cared about speed.
And very small also in terms of footprint.
Very lean.
Yeah. So we are adding the support of protocols like MCP, for example, for AI type of workloads. So we are bringing more features in there that makes sense to be kept inside Kubernetes, because most of the workloads we see from AI vendors Even if they go to GPUs, DPUs type of things, they have some workloads running as Kubernetes workloads, and it makes sense to have MCP covered by a load balancer, which is what we do, and we'll probably add more features in terms of security for those protocols. We acquired a couple of companies like Calypso AI, where the goal is to have AI guardrail and the ability to inspect some of this traffic inside Kubernetes, and all together with NGINX and the F5 offering in global.
Okay, so one last question, because we're at KubeCon, and the big open source community here, and a lot of the customers that are coming to our booth, and they see VMware making this leap from like the dominant infrastructure player to this community, right, where we're talking GitOps and Kubernetes and the developer and the platform engineer. Yep. F5 kind of went through the same evolution, right? When I used F5 early in my career, it was purely infrastructure play, right?
Oh yeah.
So in this world of platform engineering and for the developer, how has F5 evolved to appeal to the platform engineer and more importantly be a core part of any golden path or paved road or something like that, be part of that template that that is for the IDP and others?
Yeah, so we moved away from, not moved away, but we expanded our offering from pure hardware vendor, which was the case with the Red Bull in the data centers.
It's so bright. It's like 40,000 lumens.
It was a great idea, to be honest. To virtual edition. That was the first move, and that's where we were heavily partnering with VMware also in those designs. We moved to the cloud, and the virtual edition was a key element for that, but we had to be more cloud native, kind of. So we added the automation on top of it. Being able to not only go to the UI to create a configuration, because that was what our administrators were doing with the big IP. Being able to use your Terraform stuff or your Ansible playbook to deploy the whole infrastructure, and the big IP in the middle was a key element to operate also. So we have done this evolution with big IP. And moving forward, we've seen different consumption models. One was, of course, the data center, the cloud, but also the private cloud, where customers wanted to do the same stuff, but in their ecosystem with their DevOps teams and DevSecOps and so on. And we have also customers that are now asking for, it's my WAF policy is kind of complex to operate because I've got thousands of apps and they are all knobs to turn that are complex for me. Can I get rid of this and move that into a cloud environment, which is what we have with our SaaS offering. We call it distributed cloud, where we have also some of the features we have in our box in NGINX, running also in the cloud with much more power in terms of capacity. It's a global network, and the ability to do WAF there is the same look and feel as what you have on the big IP and on the NGINX. So we call this approach a one WAF approach, where customers can move their workloads in wherever they want, operated or not,
and the security policy follows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For a second there, you said one wife policy, and it was difficult to operate, and I was like, also true. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
WAF. So there's I've seen a lot of good things coming out of F5, and I see continued partnership. I feel like we can do a lot of things together. So I'm looking forward to that. You've been around F5 for 18 years, you said?
Oh yeah.
So you've seen the whole evolution, and I think we're only just getting started. So good things to come. So Philippe, thank you for joining us. And for more information, please come to the VMware Cloud Foundation YouTube channel. Also see the show notes for any links associated with our conversation today. And as always, thanks.